Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for coming out here today. We are, of course, at the very doorstep of the Ontario Legislature, and we're here in defense of freedom. And there is no more noble cause to which you can devote yourself. It is simply monstrous that any citizen should be punished for refusing orders to help arrange the death of any innocent human being. In a Canada that used to cherish tolerance, we are witnessing deliberate intolerance. In a Canada that used to value diversity, we are witnessing deliberate conformity. And in a Canada that used to be once strong and free, we're witnessing freedom vanish like the green grass being trampled into a muddy pit. It is simply monstrous for us to now cast aside these ideals. Our forebears had just defeated regimes which, in the very words of that declaration, demonstrated disregard and contempt for human rights, leading to barbarous acts. And our judges concluded not only that just following orders would never again excuse the taking of an innocent human life, but they also concluded that no authority should ever again order anyone to take an innocent human life. And it is monstrous now to cast aside those ideals. Now, since that time, our laws have had to accommodate the bona fide beliefs of citizens. In fact, our laws were not allowed to force anyone who found it repugnant to their conscience to contribute to the death of an innocent human being. Even conscripted soldiers in wartime were allowed conscientious objector status to protect them from orders to contribute to the death of enemy soldiers. It is monstrous to now cast aside those ideals. The drafters of that hallowed declaration dreamed of, quote, the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech and belief, where freedom from fear and want are proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common people. Will you and I see their dream, our dream, crumble to dust in today's Canada? Recently, I read someone expressing her reasons for attending another protest by saying this. She said, "I don't want to live in a country where my friends aren't included, and my friends are fearful, and my children are going to grow up in a world that's frightening, and my granddaughters can look forward to being excluded from jobs and politics and from fulfilling their potential. So I'm here for them." Well, you and I are here today for the same reasons. We're here for your children and grandchildren. We are here today to protect a Canada which is strong and still free. I'd like you to look at it this way. Freedom is like the joy that animates the human spirit. Oppression is the weight of a heavy hand that paralyzes human endeavor. And we can see these forces contending in the efforts of the College of Physicians to bend dissenting doctors to their will. You know, in young medical students, we see the very best of ourselves. So compassionate, so enthusiastic about healing, so deserving of our encouragement. In contrast, in the College of Physicians, we see an inflexible iron grip. We see a desire to punish those who disagree with them. We see a desire to break the spirit of those who merely dare to think for themselves, who merely dare to refuse orders to to unwillingly push people along to their death. This is chilling to the very bone. You know, assisted suicide is a little bit like finding your loved one perched on a ledge asking you to give them a push off. And you know what? It may be legal in Canada to take that leap. And you know what? Maybe the Supreme Court of Canada has even made it legal for you to give your loved one a push off if they ask you to. But ordering a doctor to refer someone to a suicide agency is the very same as ordering you against your will to push your loved one toward their death. When did any authority in Canada get that power? How many young people, young doctors, went to medical school with any idea other than the desire to make people whole? When did Canada become a place where honorable men and women were treated like criminals? Must medical schools now screen young people for their willingness to help kill people when they're ordered to do so? How long has it been in Canada since anyone was ordered to help arrange someone's death? Until now, in our own time, in our own country, and in our own communities. And how long will it be before you and I and other Canadians rise up to defend the freedom of conscience that our ancestors fought and sacrificed and died to protect for us? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to confront the false logic used by those who try to justify ordering doctors to help arrange the deaths of innocent human beings. First, for example, they say that allowing doctors to refuse their orders to help arrange others' deaths means, well, we'll have to allow firefighters to refuse orders to save people they don't like from burning to death. Well, just turn that specious argument around. Because we order firefighters to save lives, must we also order doctors to take lives? Of course not. That's completely false logic. Those who try to convince you that refusing to help arrange someone's death is the same as refusing to help save someone's life are just there to try to fool you. There is absolutely nothing to say about taking an innocent human life and preserving an innocent human life. There is absolutely nothing the same about refusing an order to help kill someone and refusing an order to help save someone's life. Don't be fooled by that argument. Doctors who refuse orders to help others die are only thinking of themselves, goes another false argument. This is like the slanderous accusations of self-interested cowardice that were hurled at conscientious objectors in ages past. Just think about it. What in the world does a doctor have to gain personally by refusing to help arrange for someone to be killed? Absolutely nothing. If only self-interest were at stake, a doctor might just as easily write the deadly prescription and then collect the deadly fee for it. Now, John Donne once wrote, "Do not ask for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee." And he was absolutely right that you will lose a part of your humanity when you deliberately contribute to the death of another human being. But folks, to preserve your humanity is not a selfish act by a doctor. In fact, humanity is a gift that we should pray that we get from our doctors above all else. Now, authoritarians do offer one concession only. They say you don't have to actually inject the lethal cocktail yourself. We will be satisfied if we can just force you to ignore your conscience long enough to arrange for someone else to do that job. Well, of course, this is just empty sophistry. They're trying to say that two acts are the same. The two acts are not the same, when in fact they are the same. Whether you take a life directly, whether a life is taken directly, or whether a life is taken by indirect arrangements, or whether a life is taken by instructing someone on their options about how to end their lives, or whether a life is taken by referral to an agency, in all cases, your conduct leads inevitably to the death of another human being. It makes no difference. Now, authoritarians also assert that somehow a doctor who refuses to act to arrange a death is imposing their beliefs on the person who is demanding that they act differently. And this, of course, is circular reasoning. You can say, with at least equal force, that those demanding death are the ones who are trying to impose their beliefs about death upon the hapless doctor. In reality, and you all know this, in reality, asking to decide for yourself is entirely different than demanding that someone else act the way that you want them to. Someone who wants only to govern their own conduct is making no demands whatsoever upon anyone else. A doctor who declines to help arrange someone's death is making no demands on anyone else. In contrast, those who demand that a doctor participate in causing another's death, on pain of punishment, discipline, they are the ones who are imposing their beliefs about death upon the doctor. Think about this. Even when Canada's very existence was threatened by world wars, Canadians were very, very slow to conscript citizens into lethal service. Why is there such a rush now to conscript doctors against their will into arranging deaths when there is no similar threat? Where is the national emergency that requires us to conscript unwilling doctors into arranging the deaths of others? You know, I'm old enough to remember when capital punishment was legal in Canada. But at that time, when capital punishment was legal, did anyone dare to suggest that authorities be given the power to conscript private citizens, any private citizen, against their will into arranging the executions? Of course not. That would be appalling. And it is no less appalling to now conscript private citizens, doctors or not, into arranging the death of any human being. It is simply appalling. There's no other word for it. If there is any obligation to dispense death on demand, it is not the obligation of any private citizen to do so. You know what? The only real justification for any law that proposes to force doctors or anyone else to do what is repugnant to their conscience is to ensure that the authority of the College of Physicians is not challenged by the individual consciences of doctors. Authoritarian dictatorship can never rest easy with the freedoms guaranteed by the Declaration of Human Rights. As long as free men and women owe their allegiance to the higher authority of their own free conscience or faith, they pose a threat to the absolute power of those who wish to rule over us. So when you sing in our national anthem about Canada as the true north, strong and free, know that adding your voice to ours today has proven your commitment to freedom. And when every November you hear our ancestors praised for sacrificing and fighting and even dying to preserve our freedom, know that you have added your valor to their fight for freedom. And when you carry this fight back home and you enlist your friends and neighbors, know that you are giving the leadership needed by all men and women who wish to remain free. So on behalf of your children and grandchildren, I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for your example today. From the very bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for joining in this Democracy Defense Initiative today. Let's just conclude with one shout that maybe they will hear in the legislature. Just repeat after me. Freedom!
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 Thank you all very much.
Thank you.